Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is John, your resident millennial. How you doing tonight, John? Distracted? State of the Union? State of the Union. What union? I think that isn't it a little bit ironic? Do we have a union anymore? Is there anything about us that's union? Is there a union? Yeah, we don't. We're not a union anymore. We're just. Yeah, we're just a conglomerate of, you know, whiny baby states and some Florida man. It's, the State of the Union. The State of the Union is bleak, honestly. Isn't he a little too old to be optimistic anymore? I would think maybe he's a little more optimistic. You see what I did there? I don't know. Hey, it's funny. You remember we showed that video of that cop that with the Micaiah Bryant? He says, are you gonna stab somebody like her?" They're investigating all of that now. They're like, right? He's under investigation for saying that. Yeah, because those cops killed a 16. You know what the you, you know what's you know what's getting me about that whole case is that I keep seeing articles, op-ed pieces, people talking, and they keep referring to this girl as an unarmed black girl. Now, granted, they say they're intimating that she was the one that called 911. That a couple of women were there trying to stab her. So police show up. Somebody's got a knife and is lunging at somebody. Right? They react. But to say that she was unarmed when she had a knife in her hand, are knives unarmed now? Is that what we're going with? I'm sorry. Are you what? That doesn't sound right. For some reason, I don't understand why that doesn't sound right. But I will say this. This is interesting. So, in regard to that, um, apparently, human rights experts call on the International Criminal Court to open an immediate investigation into the systematic killing and maiming of Oh, go ahead.
Just messaged me, said you can't hear me.
That's because you're not talking loud enough. Try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Let me see.
I can hear you fine.
Oh yeah, I know you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, yeah, they can hear me. Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it was
Just turn
probably
me up.
it was probably just something crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
'cause I can hear it on the stream.
yeah, in a devastating, they want an investigation open into the systematic killing and maiming of unarmed African Americans by police because they amount to crimes against humanity and should be prosecuted under international law.
International law?
Right. So this is human
Wait, wait,
rights
wait.
lawyers from around the
Who?
world are
Wait,
saying
wait,
this.
International law. Which court? Who
International
are you?
law, dude. The
No,
World
fuck
Court.
that. What world court? Fuck that. No.
They did it. They put together 188 pages And it's human rights experts from 11 countries think
Human rights experts.
the U.S. should be held accountable for a long history of violations of international law that rise in some cases to the level of crimes against humanity.
Wait, who is it that's being accused of these human
The
rights
U.S.
violations? Just the U.S. in general.
They point to what they call police murders as well as severe deprivation of physical liberty, torture, persecution, and other humane acts as systematic attacks on the black community that meet the definition of such crimes.
That's horseshit.
That we have intentionally and literally been torturing black people
Right. So
for
if
years.
no. If that's the case, then okay, every police organization on the earth is guilty of human rights violations, which I 100% agree with. But let's go ahead and hold everyone to the same standards. Let's not just say, oh well, Americans have
Right?
guns, so we make them be more responsible.
Look,
No.
I my problem is that they're not just they're not just talking about people getting killed. So they're gonna attack. They want to attack the whole. When you think of lower economic, lower socioeconomic areas of towns and stuff. So like ghettos, Section 8s, things like this. These are all will all be examples of how we have oppressed the African American community, how we've held them down, tortured them, subjected them to
As of
oppression.
when? What like what's the time period that they're talking about this in?
Uh,
Are they talking about like are they going to say something about like 80 years ago or are they talking about right this second?
they're just talking about ongoing. I'm pretty much going to guess that they say is a long history, a long
Yeah.
history. So that
So
leaves
go
it
fuck
very
yourself,
open
right?
book, right?
Yeah, go fuck yourself. That's some bullshit.
Yeah. So
No.
and but that's they're calling for that, and
Call for it all you want. Do something.
so
What?
and I mean it's getting worse. Like Nickelodeon is under fire right now about a show that they aired. Or at their little TV news, Nickelodeon news, whatever. But they did a segment that lectured kids about environmental racism.
Right. I did hear about this. Yeah.
Uh, and made all these references to how they're all what do talking about cities where you have these impoverished areas, and they're like, what do all these cities have in common? They're all examples of environmental racism, a form of systematic racism where minority and low income communities are surrounded by health hazards because they live near sewage, mines, landfills, power stations, and major roads. Now, look, I'm just going to put this out there. People want housing, right? They want a place to
Hmm.
live. And people want a place to live close to where they work. Now, you build apartments near an airport, guess what? There's going to be airport noise. And you're probably going to have to charge a lower rent for those apartments. I've lived in them, right? The rent's a
Hmm.
little bit cheaper because you're near all that noise.
Right.
But what happens to the community when those people are there is not the fault of the city that built that housing there or allowed housing to be built there. I mean,
You talking
there's
about
a
like Section
demand
8
for it.
housing?
Well, I'm talking about, they're talking about, housing that's near industrial areas, things like this, that
Oh
those
yeah.
are
Just
specifically targeted to keep African Americans in,
which is
low
funny
income people.
because you would happen to know I lived next to two industrial parks
Right.
very recently. Um, yeah, they're loud,
Yeah.
and the rent's not bad.
Right. The
The rent's
rent is
pretty
not
cheap.
expensive because you
Right,
understand that there's things that impact the living,
right. And as you can
living in that
see,
area.
look, white as fuck, white as fuck. And
But
my neighbors, guess
right.
what? Hispanic.
And guess what? People that have lower income are going to go to those places because
Right,
it's what they can afford. I mean,
right. Of course.
it's not like they're specifically saying, Now I understand that once upon a time that there was that, but I don't want to hear this argument unless you factor in self segregation, cultural segregation. I mean, move. If these areas are so bad, nothing stops these people from being able to move out, go somewhere else. The only thing that holds them back is themselves and what kind of money they can earn. And if it's then we have to listen to why it's our fault that they don't earn any money. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
It's
I
a
don't know. It's
circular
just some
argument that keeps
nonsense.
going round and round where, ultimately we're going to get the blame. The US gets the blame because it's all intentional. It's systematic racism designed to keep everyone down that doesn't make enough money or isn't the right skin color. And
It's somehow only about skin color, which
right.
doesn't make any sense.
And that would be great if it was only African Americans that were living in these impoverished areas. But
Yeah.
it's not. I don't know. It's crazy. We got a few folks in the chat. I see Random Randy was here earlier. He may have come in for that early show that we didn't mean to have. Seawall in the house, and Ron Helton has shown up as well. Good to see you guys. Helton says you've got the cutest little baby face.
It's true. I do.
Helen says those 3 involved in killing Arbery in Georgia have been arrested. Yep, they're facing charges of attempted kidnapping and a couple of other things. But over 1,000 people were killed by the police since Floyd and the verdict against Chauvin. Right? How many of those people? Not all of those people were black. Some were, I'm sure, death by cop suicides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not surprising. Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 shootings by police officers. The only thing that's going to matter is the small percentage that was African Americans, and it's atrocious. None of the others are atrocious.
Right. They don't matter.
Right. It's
Yeah.
but so when we're talking about kids and all of this, one of the things that's going on, the State of the Union was going on tonight. There's a lot of talk about economic stimulus going on right now, right? Money's being printed left and right. We've seen it with the stimulus payments. But one of the things that's happening that's being talked about that's going to be put forward affects schools and kids, and that is going to be that preschool is going to be free, and then also putting forward that the first 2 years of community college will be free. Sounds like something Bernie was going to do, right?
Yeah.
But, and there's been some talk that, suddenly, all of a sudden, what's the crazy senator's name that's been getting all the airtime, battling with AOC and...
Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she came out and she's like, oh, well, you don't want that to happen because that's just an opportunity for Democrats to indoctrinate kids by giving them free preschool and start teaching them about racism and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, all right.
She's not wrong.
Well,
She ain't wrong.
it's not like that's the thing, though. The problem with that argument, though, is the indoctrination is happening without it being free already. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like, it's happening already. So they don't need to make it free for that to continue. But it's an interesting take. But now it's going to, there's things with schools and the First Amendment that have come up that is really going to, really making me look at what the government is about to do with education, how they're about to handle it. But there's a case in front of the Supreme Court over First Amendment rights as it directly relates to schools. And this is involving a young girl named Brandy Levy. She's 14 years old, and she was on the junior varsity cheer squad and tried out for varsity. And she got cut from the team, or she didn't make it to the varsity team. So her and her friend posted on social media, shooting the bird and saying, fuck school, fuck the cheer team squad, fuck varsity, all this. And pissed off. Kids, social media, right? Fuck this, fuck this. Well, the school kicked her off the cheer squad and reprimanded her about doing that on social media. So her parents are like, they appealed it, wouldn't get anything from the school, so they're like, fuck it. we're going to make this a First Amendment case.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's sitting before the Supreme Court, and they've already heard some of the opening arguments. They heard some of those today. And it was very interesting, the stances that some of the justices took. Stephen Breyer, this was my favorite. He's like, the record shows what this young woman did was she used swear words, unattractive swear words, off campus. Did that cause a material or substantial disruption? I don't see much evidence it did. If swearing off campus did, my goodness, every school in the country would be doing nothing but punishing. Because the school is trying to wrap this under a blanket of cyberbullying.
Bullying who?
Right.
Who?
Exactly. She wasn't bullying anybody. She was just pissed off. And she
school?
used profanity in regard to the school, right?
Right, she's bullying the school? Get over yourself. Shut the fuck up. That's retarded.
Justice Alito he went with a hypothetical. He's like, so if a student believes that a biological male who is a male, but identifies as a woman, has adopted a female name, but he has an objection and he still refers to this person by their male name and male pronouns, the school should be able to do something about that?
There's a lot of people who would agree with that, yeah.
Right?
I
He's
don't,
like,
but
no.
There's a lot of people who would agree with that.
He doesn't think that should be a thing. But here was interesting. This was Thomas. Now, Thomas really put it out there, and I'm like, okay. And here's what he had. Listen to this, and tell me if this doesn't sound really old school. In light of the history of American public education, it cannot seriously be suggested that the First Amendment, freedom of speech, encompasses a student's right to speak in public schools. Early public schools gave total control to teachers who expected obedience and respect from students, and courts routinely deferred to the school's authority to make rules and to discipline students for violating those rules. Several points are clear. Under in loco parentis, speech rules and other school rules were treated identically. The in loco parentis doctrine imposed almost no limits in the types of rules that a school could set while students were in school, and schools and teachers had tremendous discretion in imposing punishments for violations of those rules. Basically saying that the school had free rein to step on any First Amendment rights.
Well, I think the problem with that is that it wasn't done on campus, so the school would have no jurisdiction there. And secondly, we've already done away with those like the non-restriction on what schools can and can't do, and the rules that they can and can't impose. So I don't think that either of those work. I don't think that works.
Yeah, there was a funny point made on Twitter by a lawyer about that one. He said, Thomas has a series of crazy pants opinions arguing that students don't have first A rights because Thomas read some 17th century parenting self-help books and they said to be mean to kids.
That's funny.
But the other thing he says, the Justice raised the question we had to know was coming. Where exactly is the internet? I don't know how you locate the conduct when you have social media, right? So the question, basically asking the question, did she post that from school, right? So if she's on a social media account and she posts that from the school, is she doing that on school grounds? Is that wrong, et cetera, right? But this is opening.
Wait, are you talking about like if she recorded the video?
Well, it was just a
posted it from there.
It was just a picture and a post,
picture.
Right? So if she did that on school grounds, now is it where does it fall?
I would say that you have a better argument at the very least. You have a better argument for it if they're doing it on school grounds.
See, and here's one of the arguments that they're having: does speech occur when it's written or posted, or when it's read or downloaded?
think I don't know. I would think that like my gut reaction. I would have to think about that, but my gut reaction, I think, is when it's posted, when it's actually said.
So when it's posted, that's the speech, the free speech, right?
Right.
Um,
That's my gut reaction.
or
Like I
the
said, I would
governed
have to.
speech. So right. So where does she fall under restrictions? So it does it happen at the time she posts it, or is it not something until somebody sees it? Right? Is it just a dead opinion until someone sees it?
No, I don't think so. I really think that because I mean, because like that way, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. That's too many restrictions. It would have to be as it's said, not whenever it's heard.
Um, yeah.
Because no, because that means that like if you were to bring say before he died, if you brought George Carlin's 7 dirty words
Mm-hmm.
bit to school and you listen to it there, does George Carlin is he now in violation because his words were
Right.
heard on school campus? That's
Right.
stupid.
Yeah.
No,
It
no.
makes sense. It's a good argument. It's a good argument, SCOTUS.
I try.
Helton says we already have Head Start. Are we talking pre-Head Start now? No, the preschool he's talking about is like you have VPK, then you have preschool, and then you have kindergarten. So that preschool, VPK is voluntary pre-K, and that's free. That's most places do that free because it's basically the new preschool, but right. But pre-K or preschool now is what they're talking about making free, which would be the actual first before kindergarten class that you would take your kids to. Most schools have some fees or
And also,
fiscal requirements for that.
he's saying we already have Head Start. Yeah, well, we also have No Child Left Behind. So, as I said, I think it was George Carlin who said that somebody's losing some fucking ground here. We had Head Start, now we have No Child Left Behind. Someone's losing ground.
Um, Helton says respect is earned, not demanded. The school has no right to
Yeah.
restrict the student's freedom of speech, especially off school property. It doesn't matter. The school does not have jurisdiction over the internet. You give public officials an inch and they will take everything. Yes, they will.
Yeah.
And it's, so it does get a little tricky. What is allowed? What isn't allowed? Um, you know, but it looks like most of the justices are going to fall on the side of, it didn't cause any harm, and one of the justices even asked and said, you know what, is it possible that this is about the teacher involved, the gym teacher, the cheerleading coach,
Hmm.
is more pissed off than anything else? Is that what this is about? That's the
Yeah,
question
it's
that
about like
has to
they
be
were
answered.
talking about me. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Well, you're the one being bullied by a bunch of little girls. Stop. Like,
Yeah,
listen, I know little girls can be fucking mean, right? They're some of the most horrendous people on the
sure.
planet. But you're an adult, all right? Suck it up. Like you're an adult. Jesus
Yeah, I mean, if you
Christ.
punished every teenager for saying profane words, whether on campus or off, that's all you would spend your time doing,
Right. Yeah.
right? I mean,
Hmm.
Justice Kagan even said, it's like threw out a bunch of hypos, but one of them was like, one kid sends some answers and some help with geometry homework by email to another one, and in the email he said, "This school really stinks." Now he's broken rules.
Yeah,
You
that
can't
makes
even
no
voice
sense.
that.
Yeah.
So, and but it's going to have profound impact on the correlation between schools, cyberbullying, and the internet, depending on how they come down on this. But it's another one of those things where the freedom of speech is having to be legislated, precedent set, et cetera, and it's
Hmm.
just it's not good, right? Um, and they haven't really gone at the First Amendment like this for a while, and so hopefully they'll side on the right to free speech.
Hopefully, but I mean, I don't know. You never know.
This could be one of those open doors to policing speech on the internet. That's the other thing. It's give them an inch, as Ron Helton said. Give them an inch. Where will they
Yep.
stop?
I think they're a ruler. Yeah.
But this is not the only case that they've got that's very monumental right now. There's
Right.
another
The
one.
next one is what I'm really interested in.
Right. So now they have another one. They're taking up a case the right to carry a gun for self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why this is coming up is there were a couple of guys up in New York that were applying for weapons. Now,
Mm-hmm.
New York has this old standing law that basically says that for you to have a concealed carry, you have to have a reasonable reason, right? You have a reason for that. And self-defense isn't a good reason, right? Basically saying you've got to be somebody who specifically stands out from the rest of the crowd, like private investigators, police, security, things like this, right? But now these two guys are like, no, the right to bear arms means I should be able to carry my gun. And so now that's
That's exactly what it means. Yeah.
what they have to decide. Well, they're ultimately going to have to decide in this case if the right to bear arms incorporates not only within the home, but outside the home as well, for self-defense, for the pure purpose of self-defense.
Which it has always been for. It's always been for that. Like from like as soon as we sharpened the first stick, it's always been I'm carrying this around for self-defense, whether it be from some animal or another human. I mean, that's what it's always been. And about the concealed carry, because that's what they're talking about too, right? I'm talking about like almost a federal concealed carry, like without having to need a license for it.
Right.
Okay.
I mean,
So
it's yeah.
the funny thing about that though is back in the 18th century, 19th century, it was actually considered sketchy if you weren't concealing your weapon.
Right.
Like it was normal to not conceal it to conceal it because as soon as you brought it out, that showed intent to use it.
Right.
So like if you're wearing it on your hip, that seems like a threat, like you're sketchy, you're up to something.
Right. Don't pull that if you ain't going to use it, right?
Right, exactly. So keeping it concealed was much better.
Well, now bear in mind, this is not like ultimately saying that they shouldn't have a concealed carry permit. What it's saying is because there's 8 states that limit who has a right to carry a weapon in public. And that's New York, California, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
So they have stronger limits on who can carry a gun in public. So it's not that it's not as much an issue about the concealed carry permit so much as who's allowed to have it and why self-defense isn't a viable reason to have that permit if you're a law-abiding citizen. And that's what they're if this goes through, if they fall on the side of the rule on the side of these guys and the Second Amendment, then it will set a precedence where those 8 states really have to reevaluate their conditions on who can carry a gun, because then they'll be facing 2A court battles all the time if they don't. Now, Helton says about his earlier statement, which is why the justices should rule that the government does not have the right to regulate speech, period. Right.
Correct.
Random Randy says, don't pull if you ain't intended to use it. I said the same thing to my wife the other day. Nice. Helton says, no government at any level should restrict your right to self-defense. Permits be damned. Agreed. And I get it, but I mean, we have to remember one thing. We've set a level of expectation these days where these gun permits they're there, they exist, right?
I haven't set that precedent.
It's been infringed upon, right? The right,
your
gun rights have already been infringed upon and set
100%.
Standards and benchmarks, right?
For sure.
So, but telling people you can't carry a gun for self-defense in public is a little bit tough, right? Because they believe they go on the far side. It's not an armed society, it's a polite society. It's that there'll just be everybody out there Wild West with guns.
Right, which the Wild West was a lot less chaotic than the movies would have you believe.
Right. Now, to be honest with you, if you really pay attention to most of those westerns, though, not everybody was walking around strapped. You only had certain individuals. Like if the farmer was going into town, he might strap a piece on or keep it in the wagon handy, right?
They have a shotgun in the wagon or something, yeah.
Right. But for the most part, people weren't walking around town strapped unless they were, somebody with a purpose for having that gun. Whether it be a gunslinger or,
Well, it's because guns aren't. I
travelers
mean,
and
guns
yeah,
aren't super cheap.
right,
If it wasn't worth having, then why would you spend that money on it?
right,
If it's not worth having,
right.
yeah,
If there's no reason for you to have it walking around, you have a rifle, a long gun sitting at home for what you
sure,
need.
yeah,
But
yeah. Even just against
um,
like varmints and stuff, stuff running around,
but
coyotes especially, gotta
but
take them
now,
out.
if you want to go somewhere where guns are not a problem, Florida is doubling down
Hmm.
on protecting the Second Amendment.
Except for when something I found out recently, we do have red flag laws in
Sure,
Florida. I
we
did not
do,
know
and
that
that's kind
until
of
very
I
recently.
think that's kind of an answer to federal expectation.
I don't give a damn about federal expectation
Well, I
though.
mean, you know, it,
Like,
I understand, but here, check this out.
but a lot of this stuff is good, yeah.
Florida law that prohibits local ordinances on guns and ammunition just got stronger. So here's
Hmm.
what they did. They updated there's a Senate Bill 1884 is a technical correction to previous law, and basically this law bars municipalities from regulating firearms and ammunition in any way. The only entity in Florida that can determine gun law is the state itself. I don't care if you're a county, a
Yeah.
city, no matter who you are, you cannot set gun ordinance nor ammunition ordinance. No. And so they've made this a little more strict because what they've done is they said it forbids local governments from passing any policies, as I said, on the purchase, sale, transfer, taxation, manufacture, ownership, all of it. Um, if local officials violate that law by enacting a gun policy, they get a $5,000 court fine and allow citizens and gun groups to sue those local governments for all attorney's fees and up to $100,000 in damages. Right? So
Wow.
your people can just waylay you. But this it changes the statute in two ways. If the unwritten word would be grounds for a lawsuit by a citizen or gun rights group. It would tweak the law to discourage local governments from changing their policies in the middle of a lawsuit. So somebody comes and says, "Oh, well, they put this law in place, and I'm suing." Then the local government says, "Oh, well, we just changed that law, so it doesn't have relevance anymore."
Mm.
So it'll say, "Okay, no, the case is still going to go through, even if you change the law and get rid of it. The case can still go through." Uh, and that's huge, right? It's like you can't get around it. But any policy in the state doesn't fucking matter.
Hmm.
So, like, it's I love that. I don't know why I love that so much. It's just like and DeSantis is good that way. He's like, fuck yeah,
Yeah,
you
which is
know.
why, and I was talking about this earlier. I don't think he's gonna make it through the next election. Like, I think he's gonna get, middle of the night, 400,000 ballots against him. You know, I think that's gonna happen again.
But see, now they can even so when they talk about that it will protect people from unwritten gun laws. An example of that is, say, a local police department had an informal policy that said if you had a stolen that a person with a stolen gun could get that gun back in a timely manner, that would constitute an unwritten gun policy, right?
Hmm.
So if they have a gun, somebody steals your gun and the police get it, you can
Hmm.
go to the police and say, "I'd like to have my gun back, please." And if they
Wouldn't
say
that be?
no, our policy is, "Oh, okay, well, I'm just going to sue you then.
Yeah, that's
I'm
still
going
your
to, I'm,
property just because it was stolen
yeah."
from you.
So oh, well, we have to hold it for evidence or whatever. No, I need my gun back. This
Hmm.
informal policy that you have, I'm now going to sue your ass for it,
Fuck yeah,
right? So
badass.
even unwritten law we, the citizens, have the right to take that to court anytime that somebody, throws that. And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, if you think about it,
Oh yeah.
it's like you never know when you might be in a situation where some cop rolls around and goes, oh, well, it's not, but this is what we expect to have happen with that. Okay, great. I'm going to go sue now. Right? I'm going to make your life miserable
Well,
because you
like
wanted to have some gun policy.
like Random Randy is bringing up in the chat, I would do that for red flag laws. Something like that happen, I'd be like, I'm suing you.
Hold on. No,
No, fuck that. I'm
not
suing.
if it comes from the state level, though.
No. I'm suing either way. Not saying it's going to go through or that I'm going to win.
Right.
I'm just saying I'm suing though. I'm suing the hell.
Well,
out of
now, yeah, that's the thing, though. It's not leaving you the option to sue the state for state gun law.
No, I'm suing the state.
I mean, you can try, but
Yeah.
you'll run up against a brick wall there.
Right, of course, because obviously, who's running the court?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. We investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong.
Now,
Crazy.
here's an interesting thing. So, what if it's a federal mandate that the state doesn't recognize, yet someone tries to, police you over a federal gun law? How do you think that works?
Wait, with what?
With if they try and lean on federal law versus the state law.
Well,
If there's no state law to govern what they're wanting to do, but there's something federal they can fall back on.
I'm not mistaken. Isn't Florida a 2A sanctuary state?
Probably.
I think it is. In which case, hang on. Of course, Google's not gonna autocomplete it for me because it doesn't want me to know that.
Yeah.
42 out of 67 counties, 3 cities, and 1 town have adopted Second Amendment sanctuary. Which ones? I wonder if we are. Not you, but maybe you. I don't know. Let me see which ones. No, not state laws. Hang on. Well, you can continue. I'm looking this up though.
Yeah. No, I
We
mean,
don't need to have.
Florida may not be, we may not call ourselves a Second Amendment, sanctuary, but it is. It looks like the state's at least trying to kind of, keep any infringement on your gun rights in their pocket and trying to limit it as much as possible.
My county is not in that. Is yours? I doubt it. No, neither of our counties.
Look up Alachua.
Alachua?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm.
It's in alphabetical order, and the first one's a B. So no.
What about Marion?
Marion? Yes. Marion is.
So maybe we need to rethink the land we're on.
I guess so.
Because we're real close to the Marion County line.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but no, folks shoot their guns up in that area where I'm going. So
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine.
folks like their guns up there. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this pans out from the standpoint of the carry. If self-defense is, ultimately, does that mean bear arms outside the house, and what will that mean for concealed carry or just open carry? Whether or not you need some sort of permit for that, or if we're gonna, because I'm telling you, they say if they fall on the side of it's okay to permit people for self-defense, then it's going to open the door for, okay, why do I need a permit? It says I can bear
Right.
arms.
Right. Well, you shouldn't need a permit.
Right. It's going to bring that into question. People want to be armed right now because it is a scary place in America. No matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody thinks, there's a level of fear in this country. And for a lot of people, it's directed in lots of different ways. Whether it be people are afraid of the police, whether they're afraid of the next riots, whether they're afraid of people who've just been cabin fevered for so long from the pandemic. People are afraid of what's going on. People are afraid of the government, and the state's starting to step down on them. People are afraid, and you know, self-defense is a very real thing right now. Like protecting
Yeah,
yourself in this country. And that's a sad place to be in, but it's something that you all need to take very seriously into consideration is that we are in a state of emergency in that sense.
a state of like cultural emergency.
Cultural emergency, yes.
Yeah.
Um, which begs the question: if you're not out of the mess and somewhere homesteading, why aren't you?
If you can,
GTFO.
if you can, do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the time because I can promise you there are so
You don't
many
have much
angles
left.
where
Yeah.
things are getting very sketchy, and
Yep.
the lid's going to pop off this pot soon
Like I
if we're
said,
not
I'm about
careful.
to get a car, so if shit hits the fan, I'm coming to you.
I figured you probably would.
Yeah.
Hey, John, I got a little lady in there. I got to go check on, and she might be rousting around. So, my granddaughter's in there sleeping, and I got to go
Right.
take care of that. But anyway, if you could, can you tell these people how they can buy us a coffee and where they can find us?
Yes, absolutely. Down in the description, it should be the first link that's down there. We have, yes, it is. We have our Buy Me a Coffee, which is a great way to support us financially, which is awesome. Helps us continue to do this, and it'll help us be able to expand doing this if we're able to, offset some of the costs. Um, but yeah, you can do that. There's 3 tiers there, so go and check them out, see which ones you like, or if you prefer a one-time donation, Buy Me a Coffee does that as well. So that would help us out a lot. You can leave us a message. We'll be sure to acknowledge it on the next stream. Yeah, so if you like us, go ahead and do that. We also have a Twitter, of course. If you don't follow us, go ahead and do that because I'm on there all the time arguing with people. So that's a fun thing to pass the time, I guess. So yeah, Twitter is at the GenGapP. And then we have a Discord server. So if you want to talk to either us or other people who also enjoy us, that's a great place to do it. It's pretty active in there as long as as long as you want to talk. And we also have a Gilded for the Freedom Scoop guys. So we have a whole. Wow, that was weird. It never like it was never
When's Mike?
lagging until I started doing the
Right.
spiel. Yeah, it was fun the whole time. Yeah, so Gilded, if you like Freedom Scoop, it's a great place to go because everyone's there, so you can kind of talk to everyone all at once. And then we got Subscribe Star too, if you prefer that over Buy Me a Coffee. But I don't think there's a way to do a one-time donation. But it's got the same tiers as Buy Me a Coffee, so either one works.
Hook it up.
So I guess yeah, up to you. Yay!
All right, cool. We're gonna get the hell out of here, folks. Just remember, lock down your guns and get yourself the hell away from people. That's the main thing. Get the hell away from people. Get the hell away from them.
Permanent social distancing.
Right? Permanent. All right, we're going to get the hell out of here. Thanks, everyone, for showing up tonight. We'll be back again on Friday night for an episode at 8:30 p.m. Might be talking about sex. Ooh, sex. Go ahead, act like you don't like it, John. If you remember what it is. But that'll be at 8:30 p.m. We'll also be back on Monday night for another episode of Filling the Gap. A little humor to bring you start to your week, hopefully at 9:30 p.m. And then, of course, we have our episode on Wednesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Rousing episode of Shooting the Shit. All those times are the Eastern time zone, the one and only true time zone, compared to all the rest of you who are the posers you are. We're going to get the hell out of here. John, thanks for stopping by. Folks, thanks for stopping by and all your fancy chatting and love. Peace out. Black power. All right. See you later.
Yeah, see you guys.
Peace.
The war will begin.